Hello, I'm Jerry. Welcome to Interesting Colors. Today I want to talk about the price percentage oscillator, or the PPO for short. Um, I found the PPO to be very useful for spotting long-term trend changes that can be used for entry and exits into trends. The PPO is one of David Settle's favorite indicators. James Boyd is into market phases or market trends, and it turns out David Settle really likes to use the PPO. And if you look at any of his market watch videos on Monday, Wednesdays, or Fridays, you'll find that he'll have some variant of that indicator on at least 60% of his charts. In any case, today I'm going to talk about how I use it, and not so much the specifics of how you set it up on the chart. I have found it to be very useful for weekly charts, and I like a period of around 2 years. So if you look here, what you find is that we've actually got two indicators: the PPO indicator and the MACD. And it turns out that the PPO is based on the difference of two moving averages. And I found the 6 and 13 to be especially useful. 6 and 13 exponential moving averages to be very, very useful. And in that regard, it's not a whole lot different from the MACD. The MACD takes and uses the difference of the two moving averages, and I've got that plotted against the left side of the chart. So if you look at it, where the MACD changes from green to red, this represents the zero line of the MACD, or whenever the faster moving average crosses above the slower moving average, it goes to green, and when it goes below it, it turns to red. And the zero line again is right there. In the case of the PPO is plotted against the right side of the chart over here, and it basically shows that what the PPO is it takes the difference of the two moving averages, and then it divides the difference by the slower moving average. So you end up with a percentage. So at any one point in time, it depending on where the slower moving average at, you're gonna get a feel for kind of how oversold or overbought the stock chart is in regards to the stock. And because it's normalized, or we're not just taking the difference, we're actually computing a percentage valuation, you can use this percentage difference on any stock that you want. So you're always going to end up with something that's plottable. So in the case of the PPO, if the PPO is rising, the PPO line is going to be green. If it's falling, it's going to be red. If it goes through zero, and the zero line for the PPO is this dash green line right here. If it goes through this dash green line, you're going to get a down arrow, and if it goes up through the dash green line, you're going to get a white up arrow. So it kind of works that way. The other thing that the PPO has, the other reference that it has, is critical white dots that show up at various spots in there, and what look to be overbought or oversold areas. But the key thing to remember is that there's a third axis, if you will, on this chart that goes from 0 to 100. And if the PPO, and if you take and plot this whole thing out from the current bar back to the balance of where this chart starts from, and you take and look at the PPO everywhere, and you find the max PPO and the min PPO, you can come up with a ranking. So whenever you see a white dot, if it's on the top side, it means that the PPO is in the upper 90th percentile, or if it's in the bottom side of the chart, you're less than the 10th percentile. So it kind of means it's oversold, but what it really means is the stock is very healthy. It's very healthy going up, or it's really under attack. But it takes a lot to spot these, to make these dots happen. And as it turns out, if you were to change the time period from 2 years to 3 years, because of the additional data that you got, the dots that maybe were here could end up moving. They could be in a different spot just based on how volatile the data was. So as you look at these, let's look at these guys right here. Let's pick one. Here's FDX. We could do it the same way. But as you look at this, and you bring these, let's bring this chart back down to some semblance of what I normally have it set to. If you see the white dots, that's here at the bottom, we can see that as soon as we start seeing these things, in this particular case, we can see that the PPO is rising. So at some point in here, we know that all the dots are less than the 10th percentile. But at some point, you're going to run out of white dots, which means you've gone from something that here was at the 10th percentile to something that is higher than the 10th percentile. And the next thing you want to be looking for is where the price, and we're looking at weekly bars here, we're not looking at daily bars, where the price, actually in this case here, this white dot means that the 10 period EMA has just reversed direction. It's no longer going down, it's going up. So you've got the white dot being missing, you got a hold for the day, major hold, and you got a white dot. So if you look at the date that this happened, which is around the week of 11/7, and you move back to the 1 year, we pick up 11/7, someplace right in there, you can see that we just passed the 10-day EMA. We're now looking at 1 year. The 10-day EMA just crossed above the 30-day simple moving average for the chart, which is a pretty significant thing. And you can tell from here that the stock is looking pretty healthy. And the main reason for that is because it was so overly depressed. So overly depressed, it had to go back to some semblance of normality. In fact, you can see here from the PPO standpoint, we were down minus 12%. That's a significant amount. So when we were looking at it from the standpoint of Apple, we only saw around 6%. So it didn't actually, it reversed at different spots. So that's kind of how I use it from the standpoint of finding valuation to the upside. And when I look at it from the downside, and you can do the same thing, there's a couple things that I look at. One is, again, I look at it, in this case, it's changed, but like I said at the beginning, anything above the zero line represents sort of a bullish state. It's kind of a bullish posture, and likewise below it, it's a bearish posture. I found that it works pretty darn well if you look for this particular combination where it just moved off of that value. In fact, let's just look at it for Apple and see what that did. So we're looking at this bar, which is around 627. And if I look at 627, there it is, which is this bar right here, and you can tell that it just took off from that point. Doesn't always do that, but again, you're looking for things that were really oversold. And in the case of it coming down, what you're looking for, again, is a break from the white dot to come down. But the other thing that you're looking for when it comes down is you're looking for either another white dot. You definitely want to see some, these are closed below the high day marks at the weekly level, and you're seeing some kind of reversal up here. This is a 10-20 whole moving average reversal up here as well. So when you see this kind of combination happening, that's a significant break. And you can see the price took a terrible drop here on 117. So you don't quite see the same 117. It would be in here. Oh, we don't. We're out of the range. We're too far out. In any case, there's that. So the other thing that I've got with the PPOs is I've got a couple of custom quotes that I use, and this is the PPO indication for the watch list. And if you look down this line, and every place you see a green background and white letters, every time you see a green background, you can tell on the weekly chart that we are sitting at extremely strongly bullish chart right here. It's a strongly bullish plot. In fact, PPO rank is at 100%. It's way up there. It's off the charts, except it's not off the chart. There it is, and it's rising. So it's a very bullish maneuver. So I've got something in here set to buy something if it comes back to this spot. But you can do it for others as well. Let's look at FDS happens to be in that same boat, and there it is. There's white dots in here, so it's also in that same. But it can cruise along quite a long time with these white dots, and if you get a pullback and it doesn't actually fall below zero, there's a good chance it's going to come popping back. It just does. For some reason it works that way. So if I look at the PPOs in here, if you see red backgrounds, let's go look at Amgen. So this would be a super oversold spot. So again, this would more be kind of what I'd like to see if I'm going to go long on something. Again, it happened that we got a hold here today. We don't have a 10-bar exponential moving average crossover. We don't have that on the weekly level yet, but it's going to happen, and we still have a white dot here, so you need to wait at least another week or so before it actually makes a maneuver, makes the move. What's over here with GD? Again, it hasn't decided it really wants to bottom out yet, but we're looking for those things. So these are kind of like setups in process. And so in this particular chart, which I have configured for my weekend type stuff, I've got two things. I've got the PPO here, and I also have, these are breakout symbols that are shown for the weekly level. So this is pretty significant. So here's a case of Amgen that shows a weekly hold that I can look at. So here's a weekly hold that's shown breaking above this red bar right here, and we haven't quite broken out yet. Hasn't quite left the white dot thing. But if it does, when that happens, this is going to go. It's going to go up. I know it is. Just have to be patient. So you're actually using this to find spots that are really oversold or really, really strong moves. And if you're looking for places that show, well, hey, it just crossed the zero line. Here's Intel. This is a spot where it just crossed up. It's a golden color with black letters. So here's a case where it just crossed. It doesn't really have much else going on. Got a naked put on this thing waiting because it looks like it's. So if you're interested in using or trying the PPO study out on your own chart, I'm providing a link for the IC PPO study that I've been using in here. It's right here, and you'll just need to add the MACD histogram and lay them out in your chart. I'm going to make a video in the future that shows how to build those so that they look right. If you're interested in this kind of content, you might consider checking out the interestingcolors.com webpage. There's a lot of information that's on there, both related to important concepts and the kind of things that can be done. Anyway, with those thoughts in mind, that's it for this presentation.